So you got you a deer. How in the world do you get that thing out of the woods? On this video, I'm going to talk about kind of all the systems that I use to pack a deer out or drag it out of the woods. First thing I want to tell you is do not be a hero. If you can get a four-wheeler to your deer, I'd use a four-wheeler. You see online all the time people carrying crap out on their back or on their shoulders. Don't be doing that. You could be 25 years old and think you got the life by the horns. You put that 220-pound deer on your back because you think you're a big macho man. Then you throw your back out and the rest of your life you got back problems. Not smart. So I would use, to get something out of the woods, whatever is the most practical and whatever is the easiest for you. I got my old Honda here. I use this to get something out of the woods this year. If I can get this Honda to it, that's what I'm using. I think the next thing that I would tell you to get if you're going to get something to haul a deer out of the woods would probably be a sled. This particular sled is an ice fishing sled. I don't know exactly the model of this thing. It's a jet sled, I guess. But it's a pretty high quality sled. I've seen people just use simple sled you pull your kids behind to get deer out. I like this one. It's fairly deep in size, so the deer sit down nice in it. I kind of modified the handle to where I put this piece of conduit through a little heavier duty rope, just so I have something real nice to hold on to. This is nice, especially if you're hunting like swamps or a place where there's a lot of layovers. A sled goes kind of through everything pretty nice, and again, it's a fairly affordable option for getting a deer out. Another benefit of the sled is you can throw this in the back of your truck and you kind of keep all your gear and stuff in it, keep it organized. And I really like a sled for doing that. Another tip for the four-wheeler, I like to haul the sled behind the four-wheeler when I'm pulling deer out instead of just dragging them on the ground or trying to throw them up on the rack. Just put your sled on the four-wheeler and pull it behind it, and that's a real good way of getting deer out of the woods. So if you're in the swamp country where there's a lot of layovers, a place where you got a couple buddies and help you drag, this is a pretty good option for getting a deer out of the woods. Next tool is the old deer cart. We used to have a bunch of homemade deer carts that my dad and my uncles made back in the day. I've been using deer carts my whole life to get deer out of the woods. This particular model is a Cabela's model. I really like this thing. It's actually really heavy duty. I keep a whole bunch of these rubber ties down on this cart all the time. They live on this cart. They never leave this cart. The more straps you got to hold your deer on a deer cart, the better. Do not skimp on straps. This particular cart folds up, as you can see here, and it has a couple of T-handle bolts that you put this deer cart together with. Something else I would tell you, if you get a deer cart that folds apart, I would buy an extra set of the bolts and keep them handy on the deer cart. I've broken these T-handles off before and lost them and everything else, so it's nice to have a backup when you need it most, because if you break this thing in the field when you're trying to haul out a deer, no bueno, man. So I keep an extra one of these T-handles with me all the time, just in case this would come off and I'd lose it. I have a backup. The biggest problem with a deer cart is if you break the thing while you're pulling a deer out, now you got a deer to pull out and you got a broken deer cart to pull out. So you want to have a decent quality one. I've had this deer cart for probably 10 years. I haven't really, and before that we made homemade ones. So I really haven't used any other deer cart to give you, like, in my opinion. I just really like this one. It's just a little heavier duty. It's heavy. But what I can tell you about a deer cart is this. Get you plenty of tie down straps, or you can use ratchet straps, or you can use, I like to just use these rubber, I don't know what you call these rubber straps here. You can buy these at any Walmart or any kind of a hardware store. And the reason you want more is because this deer on these carts, they just tend to fall off all the time. And the more you have it strapped down, the better off you're going to be. with a doe, doesn't really matter how you put that thing on there. You want to just be aware of the feet and where they're at, making sure they're not kind of angled upward where they're going to get caught on a bunch of crap. Same with the antlers of a buck. If you want, if probably the best practice to me is to get that head up in here so you can kind of control where those antlers are with your hands and keep them from getting caught on everything. But again, I've got, when you're pulling these carts through the woods, you get caught on stuff and it's kind of a pain in the butt. But it's a much better solution than just trying to drag the thing anywhere. The disadvantages of a cart, they're on wheels, so if you're on uneven ground and you're kind of tippy, the deer tends to fall off the cart. They make different ones now that are like concave that the deer sit down in. Those are probably nice. I don't know, I've never used one. Swamp, I don't like a cart for swamp areas. The tires on this particular deer cart are fairly thin, so in swamps they just dig in and it's not real fun to drag this cart through swamp, which is why I prefer the sled when I'm hunting swamps or marshes. But still a very viable tool to getting a deer out, especially if you're in farm country. Not too bad of an option for hill country. Sometimes it's your only option for hill country. I don't really want to be pulling a sled up and down a hill with a cart. It's at least doable, especially if you got a couple buddies to help you out. So those are the pros, the cons of a deer cart. Now, the final method that I'm going to talk to you about is probably my favorite way of getting a deer out of the woods now. And that is, where legal, a pack frame or a frame pack. This particular one is a Stone Glacier. I probably had this pack for, I don't know, since 2017, so however many years that is. It's essentially a Western pack, pack that you would use like if you were going to go on an elk hunt or mule deer hunt and kind of pack all your gear in and stay in there like on a backpack hunt. But I keep this in my truck all the time. Inside the pack, I keep 2 game bags and a trash bag. These game bags are real nice. You don't have to have nice game bags. You can just use pillowcases. A lot of people use pillowcases, and people, say that that's the only way to go. I've never used pillowcases. I've always had these game bags, so it's just what I use. I think these are made by, they're just Black Ovis game bags, but they're kind of shaped similarly to my pack. They're long and narrow, so the meat fits down in them real nice. But I do take these trash bags and I put all the meat inside the trash bags to avoid my bag getting all bloody, is essentially what I'm doing. I've also just used trash bags for my meat, so I wouldn't want to leave the meat in the trash bags for, bloody and stuff for a long time. But it's still, it's a cheap option if you just want to keep your meat protected and keep the bag protected as well. What can I tell you about these packs and kind of what to look for? You don't have to buy, a pack like a Stone Glacier. That's super expensive, but I also wouldn't go cheap either. You're going to have a lot of weight on your pack when you're packing out a whitetail, and having all that weight on your back, it's kind of uncomfortable. And a decent pack will help distribute the weight properly in your shoulders and your hips and give you options to feel a little more comfortable while you're packing a deer out. Now, I will tell you this, a $700 frame pack is probably not necessary if you're just going to be packing out a whitetail on it twice a year. These things are made for hauling heavy weight around all day long while you're out elk hunting or mule deer hunting. So you don't have to spend a bunch of money. You can even just buy a frame. They make packs that are just frames. They don't actually have a bag on it. And then you just connect your game bags to that frame and you're good to go. If you're by yourself on public land, this is to me the absolute best system to getting a deer out of the woods. You simply just butcher the deer or bone out the deer, if legal, out on the public land. Let the coyotes take care of the rest of the deer, and then just pack everything out on your frame pack here. And I would tell you, because you're going to have to butcher the thing anyway after you get it out of the woods, or at least I do myself, I would tell you it's probably at least twice as fast to do it this way than to try dragging it out on a cart by yourself or in a sled. So those are kind of the tools that I would suggest getting. I think if you're a public land hunter and you're hunt by yourself a lot, a frame pack is a very valuable tool. And then just got to decide on if you want to get a sled or a deer cart, depending on the terrain you're hunting and kind of the setup you have that allows you to get into different places. Marshes and swamps, definitely go with the sled. If you're hunting hill country or farmland, maybe you want to get you a deer cart. I like to have them all just to have my options open and use the best tool for the job. If you guys like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'll put it right here. And then here's another video if you want to watch another one of my videos.